Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Hey Cappy, I recently listened to a debate a few friends were having and the topic of fascism came up. One of my friends pointed out a fascist government in developing nations could be beneficial in developing a free market economy. There's some kind of working culture within their society. My friend mentioned two examples, the examples being the government under Adolf Hitler and General Pinochet of Chile. Under both examples, my friend mentioned were a society that was largely socialist or Marxist in Chile, for example, and where the economy wasn't all that good. The fascist government was installed and over a period of time started becoming more and more of an economic and cultured society. Eventually both the countries lost the fascist governments but ended up more prosperous than the time period before fascist. Like, did he not know about Nazi Germany just kind of getting obliterated in war? Who is this friend you're talking to? He has a very interesting take on history. Did his knowledge of history end at 1945 and then pick up again in 1973? Noted by my friends were the technological and scientific advancements under Nazi rule by Hitler, and that whole getting the fucking shit bombed out of it by the Allies. The friends of mine also mentioned that even in today's world, there are some non-political groups such as militaries and businesses which operate in similar fashion. My question to you is if intermediate periods of fascist rule would be beneficial provided the person running the country or business wasn't stupid and didn't have a name ending in Hitler. Okay, look, here's the problem with fascism. This is one of those words that leftists and academians and hippies and now social justice warriors randomly call people who have an IQ above 100 and like to adhere to man. You're fascist! You're fascist! Alright, so what is fascism? The problem with fascism is there's no exact economic doctrine. There may be a political doctrine, but in the few instances where a fascist regime has come up, and you take away the political slandering or use of the term, there's Italy and Nazi Germany, which may be called Naziist, but kind of fascist. And so what ends up happening is these handful of instances, and I guess you could throw Chile and Pinochet under there, where you have a dictatorial type rule take over, and can this dictatorial rule taking over help advance an economy? Typically, no. And the reason why, from an economic standpoint, is that fascism, even though it's, quote, right-wing, is really in effect, in practice, in the few instances it has been practiced in society, has ended up being state control. Nazi Germany is a perfect example. Did Hitler come in and were people owners of the factories and owners of the businesses and all that? Well, yes, but the government told them what to make. It's like, I own my house, but you're going to tell me what I'm going to do with it, whether I can live in it, whether I can paint it. Well, effectively, I don't own it. The state does. And so a state owning it either on the deed, as in communism, or by de facto control over the assets, that's still communism and socialism. It's why the National Socialists really were socialists. They did control most of the means of production. In the instance of Italy, again, same thing. Benito Mussolini comes in, we're going to do this for you. If there is a definition of an economic policy of fascism, it is the government coming in and telling the private sector what to produce. But once that happens, is it really private sector anymore? Now, can that be a better rule of law than other instances? Can that benefit an economy or a country economically? Yes, but you really got to have a shit show going on. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, you look at the Weimar Republic, that was a shit show. Could a lot of these shitty-ass third world nations benefit from a strong dictator that would come in and clean up the Republic of Chad or Somalia? Yes, that would clean up the shit show. So it would be better than like the worst countries ever where there's just pure anarchy and there's nothing going on. Because there would be some modicum of production, there would be some organization, and there would be economic efficiencies gained from it. But you run into the same problem that you do with fascist economies, and that is it's the state telling the government or the private sector what to do. Now, if this is in the case of a ramp up to a war, which would be Italy and World War II and Nazi Germany, then you are kind of achieving your goals because you are taking over the economy to gear it up for war. But if you look at standards of living and actual economic growth, like for non-military spending consumption, the Germans were they better off in the Weimar Republic? No. But were they better off than the Weimar Republic, even though like there was rationing and all this other shit? Well, yeah, but marginally so. And it was a fleeting instance that this fascist economy existed without going to war. And once you have war, then debates about economics go out the window because you're at war. You'll do whatever you can to win that thing. Otherwise, your country stops existing. So it's not like this is how we operate in peacetime. Now, Pinochet, on the other, that's a very interesting one because, yes, it was a dictator. It was, quote, fascist. But then he hired out the Chicago boys, University of Chicago economists. Was it 72, 73, or 73, 74? Basically, he was, quote, a benevolent dictator where he came in, but he instituted all these free market reforms. And very unlike fascists, he sold a lot of the government interests in things, the education, healthcare. I think they held on to some of the mining, though. I think copper is still very well today. I don't think it's. I think it's privatized now. But Pinochet, again, it's like, well, he was kind of fascist, but then he went and freed up a bunch of shit. And that's another instance where fascism would be marginally better, is not only do you have a shit show, war-torn tribal shitbag like, war-torn African countries. Well, okay, fascism, some kind of structure would be better than nothing at all. Or you're taking over a Marxist shithole, as the case Pinochet did, because Chile was going to go Marxist or at least socialist on left. So improving upon the two world's shittiest economic systems, pure chaos and communism, yes, anything is pretty much better than that. But fascism, because you're still having government control of it, all you really do is add organization and structure. There's really not a lot of freedom. People aren't really allowed to produce what they want. Capital and resources and labor are not allowed to flow freely as they so choose, therefore investing and funding the most profitable and highest rate of return things and things that will increase the standards of living. And fascist governments have the same problem that totalitarian and communist ones do. How the fuck are you, government central planners, supposed to plan and determine what's to be produced for an entire country? You 300 guys are going to determine how much bread is going to be made instead of all the people who, instead of free markets, the people buying and selling and bidding up or bidding down the price of bread. It's laughable. It's like, it really is kind of like, well, you got heart cancer. We removed your heart, so it's slightly better now. Now we need to put a Jarvik 7 in you. We need you to do a heart transplant. It's just marginally better than either nothing, pure chaos, or communism. So, is there instances? Yes. Technically or theoretically or very few instances through history, yes, it can be better. But you're just not going to beat the free market. You just aren't. Because that's free people doing what they want and moving their resources and time and capital to what they think is going to be the best rates of return. And anytime you deviate from that, as you see throughout history, it fails. It just fails. Or it's not as good as it could be. So, anyway, yeah, tell your buddy to read about this thing called World War II. It didn't end well for Hitler and Nazis in the end. The economy really didn't do all that great, kind of like 1941 or so. Best of luck. Toodles.